This one, I promise you, there wasn't even a contractor involved. No contractor could have put their name on this.
You can tell. Too.
Yeah.
You can tell.
Anyways, welcome to the Real Estate Morning Show. This is where we talk all things real estate. We've been doing this a long time. Real estate, that is, not so much the morning show. Jen and I started season 1 last fall. We decided we wanted to do a show together, and after 26 episodes, we liked it so much we wanted to start season 2 with the founder of the Silbernagel Real Estate Team, Cecilia.
I get to join these guys.
Yeah.
This is really so
So
cool.
now all three of us are going to come here once a week and talk about everything in the news and stuff that is on our mind.
Fantastic.
I'm going to jump right in. I'm going to mediate for our podcast today. I'm going to jump right in with the news that Toronto and Montreal luxury condos are surging in value.
Yes, seriously.
Yeah. Makes perfect sense. And I mean, we know this a lot from our business that as people, empty nesters are downsizing and they've made a lot of money on their homes in the last few years. They want to downsize to a condo but don't want the little square footage that we see builders are pumping out now and then. So it makes perfect sense that the luxury market is thriving right now.
Yeah, I think that there really is such a fuss for folks that are downsizing to a condo that they want square footage and they want quality.
Yes.
Right, and so they're not buying the entry level, one income, entry level single person or couple condo. They really do want the square footage and they demand the quality.
Yeah.
So there is a big market for that.
Yeah, and you also got to look at too. A lot of the people who are buying it bought their homes that they're now selling in an inflated, even though it's down, is still inflated market. Mm-hmm. When they bought in the 80s or the 70s or the 90s when the market was low, like they've made so much money. They don't owe anything at this point generally on that property. Yeah. So to sell that cash out and then kind of buy that luxury condo that they have the living accommodations that match their needs, but it's not costing them any money really to do it because they're just laterally transferring and they get all the amenities that you get with a condo and the lack of maintenance and ownership issues, right?
It makes perfect sense that this market is doing well.
Yeah.
And on that, it brings me right into the next piece of news because we know that Montreal is now the following suit of what Vancouver and Toronto have done. Their sales have been fantastic. Mm-hmm. Their average price is going up so much. And I just saw in the news yesterday that they've just had their sales increase for 48 months consecutively.
Wow.
48 consecutive months of sales increase. That's sales volume is what we're talking about, not price now. We know that the price has been doing very well. We reported about it on the show last time. Yeah. So this is, pretty amazing to look at that market. And again, I think they've got the benefit of looking at, we followed Vancouver and we watched what happened there and kind of took some cues. And then they can now look at us as a test case as well. And
Montreal really is,
what's going on.
Montreal's overdue for this. I mean, Montreal it really is a fantastic city. And I think they really kind of took a bad rap through the 80s for the referendum, and do they want anybody new, and do they want to grow, and what happened to the industry and the businesses that were there. But that really has just come around full circle, and Montreal deserves to have eyes set on it.
Yeah. I'm actually surprised that it's, not because it doesn't make sense, because it does, but it's just because Montreal is a popular place, and there is a lot of European visits, and there's a lot of other elements in Montreal, and that the rest of the country doesn't have. So it is almost weird to me that it's coming third and not like Vancouver, or not Montreal, Vancouver, Toronto, or Montreal.
Vancouver, I think they're in the right spot.
Give it time; they're going to run a real close. Now they are somewhat behind us, but there's great reasons for this to be happening for them. They deserve it, I think.
Moving on, let's talk about sales overall. So RBC has come out with a report saying that they're expecting a kind of a more stagnant year this is now Canada as a whole in terms of sales volume. And their main reason for this report was saying that the factors that were keeping buyers on the sideline last year haven't gone away. Mm-hmm. Rising interest rates are still a thing. We have held, which is fantastic, but they are still held at what is now the higher rate compared to before. And that buyers are still dealing with the stress test, right? And so that's something that hasn't made any sign of really going anywhere, despite TREB and AREA's, lobbying against it, right? But on that note, we looked at the TREB outlook, and so we finished last year with 77,000 sales, which is obviously down quite considerably from both 2017 and 2016. 2016, where we finished, above 100,000, we were 110,000, I think. And then 2017 was like 80, 85, I want to say.
86-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Perhaps,
then last
Yeah.
year finishing at 77,000. But the Trev is saying that we're probably going to see around 83,000 for 2019. So we're bringing
kind of
6,000
climbing
or
back
so
up,
sales
yeah.
back into
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
back into the
absolutely.
market. And I think that's a
But I think even just from market stats tell us from January to now to the end of
Yeah.
February, we're up
Yeah.
1,000 units.
yeah.
I was gonna say, I mean,
Right.
I know you guys have been busy. I know what's going on in the market. It seems to me
There's a little vibe
like there's a
going
lot
on.
of there's a
Yeah.
vibe right now
Yeah,
that there is
absolutely.
energy and
Yeah.
excitement. And I don't know what's causing it, but maybe it's that everything is at least stable. We know where everything
Yeah.
stands
Yeah.
now. Everyone's gotten over the shock of the stress test, right? It's like it's just. I remember in Toronto when they announced the second land transfer, there was a time period where everyone just freaked out and like nobody did anything and
Yeah.
houses stopped selling, and then everyone kind of was just like, okay, well,
Yeah.
life goes on. We're still
Life
going to
goes
have
on.
to make
At
these
least that one was a
decisions.
shorter window.
It was a shorter window. Yeah, it wasn't the extent that this was for
Yeah.
sure. But it seems like I don't know, that's the vibe I'm getting
Yeah.
out there right now, that there's a lot of excitement and energy. There's a lot of deals. Houses seem to be moving faster. A little more
Certainly
popular. Yeah.
certainly the buyer activity.
Yeah.
I think when we
Yeah.
take a look at the in general the amount of when you talk to your front desk and you talk to the admin office and the appointment desk, you know, those numbers are increasing.
Yeah.
When you're out on the street showing those properties, there's somebody in front of you and there's somebody behind you.
Yeah.
And taking a look, I mean, Toronto's different than where we are here in the suburbs.
Yeah.
You know, but across the top of the GTA, you know, we've had business recently in Durham, certainly York Region, where we live and work regularly, and through Vaughan, the detached home market. Although there still is, you know, a fair amount of inventory in that category, the pending sales have increased quite a bit.
Yeah.
You know, in many of the different regions, right?
Yeah.
So it's really cool to see just even in the last 7 days, the amount of pending sales has really
Yeah.
bumped.
And I'd say also
Right, so buyers are now making some decisions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're settling in and going,
Yeah.
this is
And
what
they're
it
on-
is, and if I want to buy, I got to do this, and
Yeah.
they're doing it, right? Or
exactly.
that's-
And they're
seems
on there
like
looking the
something.
amount of showings that we have on our listings now, even compared to the
Increase,
fall.
yeah.
Yes, it's still taking them some while to make up their mind.
Yes,
Yeah.
but
But,
the showing,
but
getting
the
them
buyer
back out and
activity is-
looking
yeah.
is step one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
the bounce. It was funny. I was in the office the other day, and the girls at the front desk were chatting, and I happened to walk by and hear them. And one of the girls said to the other one, they're just like, "Oh, you can tell the spring market's coming." And the other one said, "Why?" And she was like, "Well, the amount of work I have to do is almost doubled in the course of a week." And she's like, "It's always like that at the start of the spring market." And it's
yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's funny to
Yeah.
like their perspective on it,
Yeah.
but that's how they gauge it.
That's
and
how
like
they
it's
gauge it.
coming.
Well, we
Yeah.
really we do notice a difference in the market pre-March break, which
Yeah.
happens to be this week,
This week,
right?
yeah.
Friday is
This week coming.
This
Yeah.
is this is
Yeah.
it. This is the week coming. So pre-March break, post-March break, pre-Easter, post-Easter.
Yeah.
You know, those are really three distinctive time frames when we see that.
Specifically in the spring market
Yes,
that we see these
specifically,
things.
yes.
Yeah, the
Within the
waves.
spring market, there are different categories
Yeah.
Yeah.
in the spring market. And
Yeah.
we really do, you know,
Yeah.
are seeing that difference
That
happening
first
now.
one is starting to
Yeah.
show up. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, so I think so far we can agree that 83,000 seems very plausible that we'll see that pick back up.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it does. I mean, I know we
We're
joked
hopeful.
around at the beginning of the year and placed bets on some predictions.
Yeah.
But I think that makes sense. That number makes sense to me, right? There
Yeah.
should be a bit more traction, so we should see
Yeah.
a bit of growth.
Well,
in
and I
those
think
numbers.
certainly I think that the first part of this year is where we're going to see the majority of that growth.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
the first half of the year up through to June. You know, hard to say again. Traditionally, seasonal markets. You know, our summertime again usually drops off a little bit. Our fall has been good, but if the majority of our buy does happen in the first half of the year, the second half just may simply stay a little bit. May plateau, may stay flat, with the majority of it happening now. Is
Yeah.
what I think perhaps will happen.
Well, and we'll see with the rates holding. Do we see then that the bank waits till the fall to
That's
do it,
what I
and
was
does that
gonna-
then
yeah.
taper off our
That's
sales
exactly
for
where
them?
my thoughts went as
Yeah.
well. I'm like, the rates are gonna dictate very much because they're still saying those rate hikes are coming.
Yeah.
They're gonna do them this year, but they're holding off now, which indicates they're gonna be those, September, potentially December increases, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Nope, but I think we're in a good spot. And again, even the RBC report comes out and says, when referencing specifically Toronto, we're in a much more balanced market now than we've ever been. And I mean, we know that
Yeah.
just from based on what we're looking at with our months of inventory and stuff is much more balanced. and in ranges that we haven't seen for years. So
Yeah.
it's pretty fantastic.
Oh yeah, I think it's good for it.
good for
To
everybody.
be able to create a win-win for everybody now is
Yeah.
far more plausible than,
Yeah.
than what it has been.
Yeah, I mean, even the stress for everybody in the old way, though the sellers were making a lot of money, but everything was so scrambled, everything was getting done so quickly. We were having to waive financing and home inspection conditions just because there were so many people vying for one property
Yeah.
that it just got a little out of hand. So
Yeah. This is my.
this is like a more ideal
I was
market.
say this is my favorite type
Oh, I
of
think
market
this is
to
the
live
kind of
in.
market that
I
we
love
like.
it. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
everyone has
Yeah.
equal opportunity to feel good about what they're doing and
Mm-hmm.
come out feeling everybody won. And I think that's always a nice place to be for everybody, right?
Yeah,
As opposed
absolutely. And buyers can make sound buying
Of course,
decisions, and
yeah,
they've got time to put the financing together. They've got time
Yeah.
to do their home inspection without feeling that extra pressure.
Yeah.
And I think that's what what certainly is going to make this market a far better,
Yeah, I
healthier
agree.
market for everybody.
Yeah.
And on the note of sales volume
Yeah.
and us being in a very balanced market right now, we want to see more sales come back to the market.
Yes.
83,000 is a nice step, but let's get back up there.
Yeah.
But if those sales increase and we don't have more inventory come out, we're going to see that tightening of the market all
Yeah.
over again. So one of the big things is housing. We need to get more
Yes.
housing out
Right.
in the market.
Yeah.
Um,
More
like-
affordable.
Yeah, not just affordable, but just units in general. Like
Yeah.
if we have so many
Yeah.
people coming to Toronto,
Yeah.
to the GTA, we need more housing here so that it doesn't get to be a very competitive market again.
Absolutely.
And you actually have some numbers on
Yeah.
that from the Market Outlook report.
Yeah.
Was it from Treb?
From TREP.
From TREP, okay.
TREP has just released their 4th annual market outlook for 2019. And one of the chapters in it is about finding that middle housing, that missing middle housing, which is the affordable housing. And because of the projected population growth, they tell us that studies out of Ryerson are telling us that our population in the next 20 years, by 2041, is going to grow by 10 million people. 20% of that's going to be downtown core Toronto. And for affordability reasons, the rest are going to be in the outlining areas.
Yeah.
Because
Makes sense.
if we cannot afford downtown Toronto, then we have to reach outwards. They tell us that Durham region is going to get the brunt of it over and above Metro Toronto. Durham region is going to get 77% of that growth. York region 56%, Hamilton 41%, and Peel region is 38%.
Right.
So if that housing is being pushed to the outer regions of the GTHA, then what we need transit. And we need
Right.
sustainable. We need infrastructure, and we need sustainable communities. So the urban planners are now really talking about releasing a very aggressive housing plan and using up space, hectares of space that's actually around GO stations. The Pickering GO station they have mentioned, they have identified as one location, and Long Branch and Etobicoke as another. Where in Pickering, with the hectares of surface space that's there, if they redevelop that into middle housing for families, not the single guy that can live downtown, but not the family that can afford the detached housing, but put your daycare, put your housing, put your pickup parcels, put your groceries, all within that
Make it more of a
area.
planned community.
Make it more of a planned community. And
Right.
there's so many different spaces like this. And so it really is a fantastic chapter in this outlook. And if you're interested in getting a copy, just give us click the link and we'll send it to you, But I think that what we should do is we should address this chapter in particular, really take a closer
Yeah,
look
we'll
at
take a
dig
deeper
in
dive.
deeper. Yeah.
But I mean, that's
It's
a
really
that's a
cool.
great
Yeah.
segment that they can look at where we can develop a few more,
Yeah.
some more inventory for people to,
Yeah,
and
absolutely,
in viable
absolutely.
locations instead of just continuing to sprawl out
Just
and out.
sprawl, yeah.
And where a lot of
Yeah.
people, the reason why the prices still surge in Toronto is because people need to be and work in the city.
Yeah.
And if you can't make reasonable transit ways to get into the city from somewhere close by, it doesn't work.
Well, of course,
Right.
because it's us guys in the suburbs with our cars that create the gridlock
Yeah.
that makes the 416 guys go, what are all you 905ers doing?
Yeah.
But 905ers have to come to the city to work, or
Yeah.
there has to be work in the 905 area.
That
But there has to
justifies
be housing for these people.
Yeah.
And I mean, that gets into the conversation of the transit around the GTA anyway, which
Yeah.
is a problem, always has been a problem. And, even in Aurora, I know that people are constantly complaining about the GO station here
Mm-hmm.
because there's so many commuters now that there's no parking. So they go to
Yeah.
park and the parking lot is full at like
That's the
7
other side
a.m.
of it, right?
And the city has actually increased and created more parking spots, and people are still getting ticketed, and they're looking into like shuttles to like. There's so much going on to try and solve the problem because it's such a significant
Yeah.
issue that having something like that built around transit lines where it's like work, live, play kind of an idea with ease and without all the stress and the 2-hour commute time and all that other stuff is definitely, I think, important to keep the city growing, right?
Yeah.
Urban planners, we're counting on them.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And then moving on to that, when we want to talk about people getting back into the market, the stress test has obviously been a challenge for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But one of the other things, or one of the ways that people are proposing to fix this is actually the NDP leader has come out and said, let's bring back the 30-year amortization for CMHC insured mortgages.
Yeah.
Because at the moment you can only do 25 years. If you push that to 30 years, payments are a little bit lower. They can be approved for higher price for what they can buy and carry their monthly payments.
Yeah.
And this is something that could help. I want to know where you two land on it.
Yeah, I mean, it was in place before, right? We had a 30-year amortization.
That's right, yeah.
And it's certainly, especially, I would argue, for first-time buyers, this is more important than for anybody else.
Yeah.
That it just allows you to spread those payments out over that longer period, giving them the opportunity to be able to get approved for something, because that's really what it comes down to. Like, I think overall, I'm not a huge fan of saying, like, let people borrow for longer. Pay more interest, all that sort of stuff. However, what it means the difference between can I get my foot in the door and get some equity that I can then use to build further wealth and grow my life and the lifestyle that I want. Absolutely, I think it's a fantastic plan, but I do think it needs to be regulated.
I think the thing with the 30-year AM, as we said, it's for the CMHC, it's for the under 20% down payment.
Yeah.
Because the conventional mortgage, 80%, you can obtain a 30-year amortization.
Yes.
And having a buyer sit down for approval yesterday, I mean, it's a difference of about, depending upon the amount of the mortgage, of course, but say about the $800,000 mortgage is about $200 a month to go from a 25-year AM to a 30-year AM. Well, that $200 is either you get in or you don't get in.
Significant.
And the best thing about the amortization, I think, is that, get them in the door, because the rents are now, because our rental market is so tight that people are paying so much rent. They're paying $3,000 a month rent for the house that they can buy and carry for $3,500 if they could get in to do it, right? Yeah. And the most viable thing I think about the amortization is that you can start with your 30-year AM.
Yeah.
Get settled into your first, second, third-year home ownership, and then reduce it to 25. Even if you take a 5-year term, you can change and alter your amortization within those first 3-5 years.
And there's other flexibility too, right? You can shift it to a bi-weekly, and most mortgages also come with the option of an annual lump sum payment or an open payment model attached somehow, where you can put down up to 10%, up to 15%, depending on what mortgage product you get. And so, I mean, you could take that amortization, get your first few years, like you said, get comfortable, and then save a little money each year and pay that down faster to cover that difference. Absolutely, and cover the difference in the cost. So it opens so many doors that it just, like, I can't see it being negative.
No, again, I think, like we said, it targets the first-time home buyers, and these are the people that it will make the biggest difference for, and it'll get our market moving again, because once they come in, then the next guys and next guys it filters through.
Hey, we could write the legislation.
Right now, let's get it done.
Roughly.
We could do the rough draft.
We'll give you the idea.
And ultimately, with those first-time home buyers, their income increases over those 5 years anyway, and they can get back to a 25-year.
Well, sure, because those guys are in their income growing.
Exactly.
They're not in the declining years of income is going to be less. No. They are in their growth income years.
Exactly, where they'll see the most amount of growth in their income.
And there's got to be requirements, right? There's got to be legislation and regulation around it. There has to be, the debt ratios still have to fit, like all that sort of stuff in order to justify, we trust you enough to give you this opportunity, right?
Ultimately, I think if the stress test isn't going anywhere, this is something that at least eases the pain on that a little bit and makes it a little bit easier.
This is the NDP guy.
Yeah, exactly. Now jumping completely away, but as we look at, we watched Vancouver in the past so that we know what's happening in Toronto, because they kind of got through that market before we did. We followed them with the foreign buyer tax, and now they have integrated a new housing integrity register. And the people that they're targeting here, I got to quote...
Government intervention.
Again, exactly. So the finance minister over there, Carol James, says, for too long, speculators and tax evaders have been taking advantage of loopholes in the real estate market, driving up prices and shutting British Columbians out of the market. So what they're proposing, what they're really trying to hit here are the guys that buy 10 condo units pre-construction and then flip them through an assignment prior to actually closing on the deal, which they make the money there, they drive up the price, and ultimately it's an end unit BC resident that they're saying will end up being paid more than they would have otherwise.
The end user.
The end
BC
user,
resident,
yeah,
yes.
whoever,
Yeah.
the end user is paying more
whoever
because the
buys it,
speculator that has then made money,
Yeah.
and they're trying to crack down on people that are using tax loopholes and tax evaders in this.
So what are they
So what are
asking
they
the
doing?
developers to do?
They're asking that they track the identity of the new assignment and the previous guys, as well as their citizenships. And then the builder has to pay a $195 fee per assignment to, I guess it would be the government.
Provincial government.
Provincial government.
Yeah.
So when I first read this, it just felt like it was another little thing that wasn't going to make too much of a difference, because again, unless this really deters those people, because they're going to have to be paying tax if they were somehow getting away without paying tax before,
Right.
then maybe they stop doing it. That's the only way I could see it happening, because the $195 fee is nothing.
Yeah.
That's not going to do anything.
The first thing that popped into my head was like, okay, so they sign a document and they pay $200.
Yeah.
I don't think that that's
And it's the
gonna deter
developer that pays
anybody.
$195.
I'm sure the
They'll
developer's
pass it
gonna
along.
ding
Yeah,
the
for
investor
sure.
for sure.
Of
But
course.
I mean, unless but that wouldn't stop anybody from doing it. I mean,
No.
yes, the tax evasion, I see that, because you got to register your name, and they're going to be able to see, okay, you bought these many. We're going to keep an eye on you particularly in tax.
Exactly.
And watch how
So
you
I think it all
file,
depends on their
right?
back
But-
end. If they have somebody that's cracking down on this and actually going through all these files and catching people,
Well, it also, I
then
think
it's
it
a
also,
different story.
a little bit of FinTrack plays a part in here
It's
too,
just-
where
yeah.
they're
Yeah.
It
watching
has a
the
FinTrack ring to it.
watching the money that's coming into the country,
Absolutely.
right? And they've got algorithms for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting
anyway.
to see what kind of an impact
Yeah.
it makes.
Yeah,
and I mean, if we
absolutely.
can even attribute anything to it, but I'd love to
It
hear.
sounds like inadequate bureaucracy to me.
Yeah.
Like, it's like fill out another form, pay a
Yeah.
fine, and off you go.
Yeah.
Right?
But,
Like,
but there is no doubt that and we talked about that here in Toronto, the kid that grew up in Leaside, let's not say Leaside, but Downsview, or any neighborhood, right, that they grew up in, that they're now, the ideal always was I can buy a house in the neighborhood that I grew up in,
Right.
because so many people don't move out of their postal code.
Yeah.
We live within 5 kilometers of where we grew up. So many people do. But the kids growing up, of course, get priced out of their neighborhood because of all of that
Yes.
influence.
Yeah, as we
So-
become an international
as
city,
we become an international city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
money from outside comes
Yeah.
in, wants to invest in it, and that's a very
It's bound
normal
to
thing. It
happen.
happens everywhere.
It has to happen.
That's
But
where
that is
the,
one of those challenges that comes along with it.
That's where the initial rules came in regard to the 20% down on secondary and additional properties, was because they were trying to avoid build not just overseas, but people coming in and going
Exactly.
5% down, 5% down, and I'm going to buy 30 units,
Yeah.
and then I'm going to speculate on them,
Yeah.
sell them by assignment, drive those prices up, whatever. So
Exactly.
we've already seen that come into effect, and that's been positive. I
Yeah.
think it does seem to have stopped some people from
Yeah.
doing that. We still see all that sort of stuff happen, but it is on a smaller
Yeah.
scale, I think. But I don't know. Maybe we need more info on it. But to me, that just it doesn't
seem
sound
like
like it's
much is
going to
gonna
do
happen.
much.
But
Yeah.
it does bring up the topic of a lot of people that even just regular residents that were like, hey, I have this cash sitting here. Instead of investing it in the stock market, I'm going to invest it in the real estate market by buying 5 properties, by putting
Right.
just the deposits down. I don't need to close on them. I don't need to get all the mortgages. I'll just flip them beforehand. And,
Yeah. And I think the other thing too, back to housing and to neighborhoods, is the secondary units. Provincially now, we are regulated that we are allowed secondary units in your current residence. So the purpose of this, of course, is to help the affordable housing market,
Yeah.
to create new units, to be taxed on them accordingly, say. But it's the municipalities that are dragging their ability to approve.
Right.
Folks. So let's say you have seniors, 60 plus, living in their home. They don't need all of the space. They're not using the basement anymore, per se. Their taxes are higher than they can afford, because usually it's that drives them out of their home. But like in Vancouver, like in BC, your secondary units, your back lane, your lane properties, right? That you can do your garage, or you do your entrance to your basement.
Yeah.
And from a tax point of view and from an affordable housing point of view, it's a fantastic thing for folks to be doing. And that's what we need to have the City of Toronto and the regions, start to get in line about that.
Absolutely. Well, so that pretty much covers everything that I wanted to talk about today. Was there any last thoughts that you guys had to share?
No, really. I'm excited. That's what I'm feeling right now.
Yeah.
I think that right where we stand, at least, the outlook is kind of nice. It looks like there's a shift in the energy of the market. It feels like it's a new year compared to what we were dealing with last year.
Absolutely.
People's outlooks seem to be more problem solving based than just negative, which is nice to see. I think that's cool. I like it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'm good with that. And it's middle of March.
Yeah.
We're off and running.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is our long form show. We're going to do these once a week, and then throughout the week we'll be breaking up our topics in shorter form videos that you can find on our Facebook page and YouTube accounts and Instagram. That we know that's a nice easy place for everybody to go to stay up to date. But thank you for joining us for our real estate conversation on the Real Estate Morning Show.
Fantastic.